We're coming up on 7:30. Thank you for joining us for OpenLine. We're talking about the economy today. I have Assistant Professor with the Department of Management from MTSU here, Dr. Tarpey. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
A lot of great conversations, some surprises for me, and just getting to go a little in depth with this and understand some of the things that we are seeing and some of the things that we are experiencing when we go out shopping or get those bills in the mail. I want to turn our attention to real estate. It's such a hot topic here in Nashville. For several years now, we've seen just an explosion of prices, but then recently interest rates went up. And I think every realtor was like, no, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Nothing to see here. Everything's fine. What is your take?
So not being a real estate expert, I just throw that caveat out there real quick. Real estate, like everything else in our economy, is tied to other stuff. It's just not that simple. So interest rates went up, mortgage rates go up, people are priced out of the market. We also, you wouldn't know it by looking at downtown Nashville, but there's not as many houses being built as there were before the pandemic. It slowed down some. Reason, cost of everything's gone up, right? Lumber's gone up.
Right.
Finding the labor to build the house is getting to be an issue. So when, again, we go back to supply and demand, which
that's your thing.
Pretty much covers everything.
Right.
Supply of housing goes down, cost of prices are going to go up, add interest rates on top of that, people get priced out of the market. The challenge these days, again, we're in a situation that's not too common, or we haven't faced too much before. Rents have actually gone up even higher.
That's right.
So now people who used to be priced out of a housing market and always were able to fall back on, I'm going to get an apartment to rent. Well, now apartments are $1,600, $1,700 a month. So now the challenge is, well, I can't afford either one.
Right. So
I think the Nashville real estate market is certainly doing much better than other parts of the country. We haven't dropped that much, to my knowledge. It's going to be interesting to see as we go through what the interest rates will do. Because most of the lumber shortages, we're probably over that big hump. That's going to start coming back. Labor is going to be a problem, though, because, again, it's skilled labor, but it's rather low-paying skilled labor comparatively. So we'll have to wait and see. A lot's going to depend on that interest rate hike in September. So if interest rates go up 3/4 of a point again, mortgage rates are going to go up. And that's going to price another segment of people out of the market. So far, we really haven't slowed down construction that I've noticed due to the interest rates. So there's going to be a tipping point where companies are going to say, okay, I'm not building any more houses because the interest rates are high, nobody's buying them. Because the worst thing you want to do is get stuck with a house that's built and nobody's living in it.
Right.
That's the kiss of death on houses. So we're not there yet. Other parts of the country are getting much closer than we are in Nashville. And then commercial real estate, I'm at a loss to even explain to you. You look in downtown Nashville, there's cranes everywhere. I don't know where the money's coming from, but there's money.
But there is a lot of money pouring into this city.
And we keep hearing about, well, companies aren't bringing all their employees back.
Right.
I'm building $1 million condos down in Nashville. I'm not sure who's going to buy them, but I think the hope is, obviously, this is all going to even out at some point. We're going to get back to some sense of real estate normalcy, and people will start buying again. But I foresee a lot of empty stuff right now. But I could be wrong.
Could be wrong. Who knows?
But they're building a ton.
They sure are. I mean, I sometimes count on my way out to dinner some nights. I'm like, 1, 2, 3.
It's amazing.
So many cranes up in the air.
Yeah. The skyline's just totally changed, and really more so in the last 5-6 years.
Yes, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Real estate aside, I mean, it's still in the mix here, but how is Middle Tennessee positioned if we are headed towards a recession? How do you think that we will fare?
That's a good question. Well, we typically fare better than other parts of the country.
Why?
Well, our economy in Middle Tennessee is based on a lot of industries that are, I hate to say, inflation-proof or recession-proof, but handle recessions much better. Healthcare is a great example. We have a very large healthcare industry. We have an entertainment industry that does get hit somewhat with recession. People can't spend money. They don't go out to concerts and all. But the artists keep making, so it really doesn't get hit that hard. We have a big financial industry, but nothing like New York or Chicago or anything like that. I think our mix of industry weathers recessions a little better. Not to say that we're not going to suffer. Right, we're going to have companies here. If we hit a long, deep recession, we're going to have companies here that will lay off. There's no doubt about it. But the influx who's come in, if we think about Oracle's coming to town, right? Facebook just built a big center up in the
Gallatin area,
Castilian Springs, wherever that is, right on the border there. Who else has come to town? Amazon
Several different locations.
Several different times. So we've got a lot of companies that are coming to Tennessee. And the other thing we have going for us in Tennessee is we are a more cost-efficient state to do business in.
Right. Businesses are happy here.
Right. There's
typically.
Yeah. For the employees, there's no income tax. There's not many states that have that anymore. So you can attract employees to Nashville. Nashville has a growing population of labor to work the jobs, especially skilled jobs. All those factors combined make Nashville a very attractive place for companies to locate. If companies are locating here, that's recession proofing because they're coming from somewhere else, most likely.
Right.
And a lot of times that's northern cities. You know, Chicago has lost
so much.
Countless companies, and a lot of that's just because of taxes. I'm from Chicago, so I feel comfortable saying poor management. The whole state of Illinois is near broke. We don't have that problem in Tennessee. So financially, we're in pretty good shape when we compare to other states. We also didn't, and I don't know, this may cause controversy, but we didn't shut down like a lot of states did. So our governor kept the state somewhat, we shut down for a shorter period of time. We opened up much quicker. So our economy recovered much quicker.
And I think that's very clear. Which states have been able to thrive and which states have not. And that's why we're seeing an influx of people from California and New York, New Jersey kind of just flooding in here.
Right, and people say, no, it wasn't the opening, it wasn't this, but if you just look at, it wasn't pure coincidence that the states that opened up quicker are doing better right now, and the states that didn't are not. Now, granted, the states that didn't have a lot of other problems. They're all high-tax states, it turns out. If we think about New York, we think about Connecticut, Illinois, California, those are high-tax states. They take a lot of money to live there. So Florida, Tennessee, Texas, we recovered pretty quick. And that's where a lot of the companies are coming to. What's really going to be interesting is as people start migrating to these states, what's that going to do to those states from a political makeup?
Oh, that's very true.
Right.
Yes.
So if a lot of people from California move to Florida.
Are you bringing your politics here, bringing your politics
well,
there?
politics go with people, unfortunately, as we have more than found out in the last year and a half. So I think over the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see a lot of changes. And you know how much people love change?
Not at all. Well, and I wanted to reset just a little bit, and it goes along those lines. If people are just joining us, a great point that you made at the very beginning of this when we started talking about the economy and, you know, are we headed towards a recession? We can't look towards the past right now to say this is where we're headed, but explain that. Why is that not working?
In the past, and we talked about this on the break, if we look at the recessions of the past, and we've had a lot of mini recessions, but if we look at the major recessions in the past and the inflation periods of growth right after World War II, we can explain that. That was easy. There was a great deal of significant demand increases after the war ended. And then all our production shifted from military to consumer goods. So there was a lot of goods, a lot of people buying houses. We built all these suburbs, came up with a suburb idea. And then in the late 60s, early 70s, with the Vietnam War, we had a new problem, right? So now inflation started rising again. And then the double dip was the oil embargo just sent us right over the edge. Interest rates, I remember interest rates being 18, 19%, and you just paid it. It's just what it is. Our first mortgage on our house was something like 12 or 13%.
Yeah, my parents talk about 18, 20%. I mean, it's crazy. You think about it now, I'm like, I'm at 2.75.
People are complaining about 5%.
I know.
But that notwithstanding. And then in the 80s, late 70s, early 80s, when inflation really grew, and then we took the hard cut with President Reagan and Paul Volcker, and they jacked those interest rates and they tackled inflation. All of those were easily explained by either a demand or a supply problem, right? So in the 70s, supply was cut with the oil. Late 50s, late 40s, early 50s, demand was high. We've got the worst of all worlds, right? We have too much demand, people buying too much stuff or wanting to buy too much stuff, and then we have supply constrictions, whether it be because of supply chain logistics, whether it be because of the war in Ukraine, taking oil off the market, whether it be something we didn't even touch on, consolidation in the industries. So, you know, there's only 4 big meat providers left. Well, that reduces competition. Right. So if there's any, I was here talking about baby formula. Right, we were down to 3 manufacturers of baby formula. One gets taken off, there's nothing left you can do. Right, yeah. And that's something you can't just ramp up.
Nope.
So we can't look to the past of, hey, what did they do in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and the 80s, because that's not what we're facing. We're facing pressure from all different angles, things that just are all hitting at the exact same time.
And some things are good while others are terrible.
Well, and that kind of I like to say that proves my point. So in the past, if we had a recession, everything pointed toward recession. Now we have good news, we got bad news. Every other day it's something. We created 500,000 jobs in the last report, give or take. I forget the exact number. Yet at the exact same time, our initial applications for unemployment are averaging 260,000 a week, which is higher than it's been since 2020.
How does that make sense?
How does that work?
Right.
So that points to a shift in jobs. And we've seen this. So the shift in jobs has been, a lot of jobs have disappeared, and those jobs aren't coming back. Different jobs are coming back. Companies have started automating, which we've always been automating, but the pandemic just shoved companies forward big time to say, okay, what can I do in my company without a human being? Because human beings get sick.
Right.
Right. So I talked about this on another show. If you look at I worked on this with someone else, but if you analyze the earnings calls from companies over the last 18 months, the word automation is just all over the place, where the year prior it wasn't. It's a significant 50% increase. Companies are looking at automating. I've talked to several companies just in the Middle Tennessee area who are talking about automating this part of their warehouse, automating this, because they don't want to get caught with labor again. So those jobs are going away. We do create new jobs, but are they jobs people want to work? Are they qualified to work them?
That's right.
So if you have automation, you just lost, I don't know, 100 warehouse people, and you have to hire 50 people back to run the machines. Well, those people that were picking the warehouse are not the ones that are going to be running the machines. It's new people. So I think we're seeing a job shift, and we've been seeing this for quite a while. You know, we saw from manufacturing to service, service to tech. Now I don't know where we're going. A combination of tech service, I don't know what it's going to be. So I think the job shift is also throwing a lot of things off kilter as well.
Let me ask you this, as we have that kind of question mark of where are we headed? Are we headed towards a recession? Will it be big? Will it be small? You know, how long will it last? What is your advice to the average family out there? What should they be doing right now to prepare to weather a possible storm?
You know, in all reality, I don't know if you do anything drastically different. I think part of the issue is we talk too much about it. Right?
That's probably true.
So when this happened in the 70s, you didn't talk about it every minute of the day. Right? And now we have 24-hour coverage of everything. The job report comes out, and a minute later, it's on every single
and just digging down to the minute details of it.
That doesn't need digging down into the minute details. So I think a lot of people tend to take too much information in. There's such a thing as too much information. In all reality, what can you do? Your options are limited. You can think about consciously cutting back on some spending. Hey, maybe we don't need to do that because I might need that money next year. But other than that, what options do you have? It'd probably be not a good time to quit your job.
Right.
Unless you have something to go to. You know, I've talked to a lot of people who say, I'm quitting my job, I'll find something. That's worked for a year and a half. There's going to be a point where that doesn't work so easily anymore. And I've read several content of people who've been interviewed and say, oh, I thought it'd be easy to find a job. It's not as easy as they're saying out there. What's going on?
Yeah, or the grass was greener and they thought, oh, this isn't what I thought.
Yeah, and I forgot what it was. I cited this last time I was here, but it's at least 25% of people who have changed jobs are not happy. It didn't work out like they thought it would. So I don't know, other than looking at spending, looking at your job situation, looking at your housing situation. You know, now's a tough time to move.
It sure is.
I've had people around me where I live last year saying, oh, you know, I can get this for my house. Well, the problem is you're going to bump that up to pay from a new house. So unless you got two houses, you're not going to make any money. So I think people just need to think about caution. If you don't have it, don't spend it. That's another thing. Consumer credit is going up quickly.
And that's a dangerous cycle because the interest rates are going up. You have that consumer credit. I mean, and
we just had that going down. Now, granted, it was forced with the pandemic to a certain degree.
Right.
But it's starting to creep up again. So a lot of people that do that big purchase thing and then they put it on revolving credit and then they end up getting in trouble. It's just more of managing what you've got and stop worrying about what comes out of Washington, this and that. You know, it's great to listen to that, but how much does that really impact you on a day-to-day basis? Yes, new laws, the last law, the climate law, that's going to impact everybody. Everybody's going to pay taxes. I don't care what they say. It's not going to be people over $400,000 a year. If you increase costs for companies, they're passing it on to you. It's coming either way. They're just not going to be called a tax. So I think it's really people focusing on what they've got, what their situation is, and thinking about what are the right moves to protect myself. And that'd be different for everybody, depending on where you are.
Right. depending on what your family's needs are.
Yeah.
We have to take another quick break. When we come back, your chance to ask questions and, of course, more talk on the economy. Stay with us.